Welcome to a new episode of Cheaters Always Cheat. Like, subscribe, and share to stay connected.
Not long ago, my wife and I celebrated our 6th wedding anniversary, marking a beautiful journey together. We share our lives with 2 incredible boys, who are from my wife's previous relationship, and over the years, we have built an unbreakable bond as a family. Our weekends are always filled with joy and laughter as we engage in delightful activities with the boys, such as going to the movies and enjoying dinners as a group. Being their stepfather brings immense joy to my heart, and we consistently have a wonderful time together as a loving and cohesive family unit. About a year ago, our relationship faced a challenging period. One night, my wife went out with her friends, and when she returned, I could sense that something was amiss. Concerned, I gently asked her if anything was troubling her, but she brushed it off, attributing her demeanor to exhaustion from the night out. Despite my intuition telling me there was more to her mood, I chose to respect her space and didn't press the issue further, accepting her explanation of being simply tired. However, in the days that followed, I noticed a change in her behavior. She seemed to be spending an unusual amount of time on her phone, even during our family dinners. Curious but cautious, I softly inquired why she was texting so much. She replied that she was catching up with her girlfriends about their recent night out and planning another one. Although her response appeared harmless, I couldn't quite shake the feeling that something else might be underlying her actions. Reflecting on it now, I realized that back then, I didn't pay much heed to her increased texting, as it wasn't completely out of the ordinary. Yet, in hindsight, it dawns on me that she could have been organizing something with her friends that she preferred to keep private from me. This realization adds a layer of complexity to those memories, making me ponder what might have been going on beneath the surface of our seemingly normal routine. Considering her demanding job as a consultant at a prestigious company, I never minded when my wife occasionally went out with her friends to relax and unwind. It seemed like a reasonable way for her to take a break from her hectic schedule, and I trusted her to maintain a healthy balance between work and personal life. Now, my wife is eagerly talking about another girls' night out, which will be the second one in less than 3 weeks. While I completely understand her need to have fun and spend time with her friends, there is a lingering concern regarding the group she socializes with. Among her friends, 4 of them are single, and she is the only married one. This situation makes me uneasy because, as a married woman, she has more at stake compared to her single friends. The fact that the other women in her circle are all single adds to my worries about potential risks. I genuinely want us to maintain trust and respect in our relationship, and I have no desire to be controlling. When the second girls' night finally happened, I felt it was necessary to address my concerns with her in a gentle manner afterward. I emphasized the importance of being cautious and ensuring that her single friends' lifestyles wouldn't inadvertently influence her decisions about our marriage. Open communication and mutual understanding are crucial, and I want to be supportive of her while also safeguarding the integrity of our commitment. In our conversation, I shared my feelings, stressing how vital it is for us to stay vigilant and conscious of the different dynamics at play. I want her to know that I am here for her, ready to listen and support her, but also committed to protecting the bond we share. The love and trust we have built are precious to me, and I aim to nurture them through open dialogue and a deep understanding of each other's perspectives. When I shared my concerns with her, she appeared confused and didn't say anything, as if she was unsure of how to respond and needed some guidance. After work, I decided to visit my parents' house. I spoke to my mom about my wife's frequent girls' night out gatherings and voiced my worries. I explained that all the women she spends time with are single, and it troubles me because they don't have the same responsibilities and commitments that my wife does. My mom listened attentively to my concerns and then offered her perspective. "I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with girls' night out," she said. "But I understand why you're uneasy about her being the only married one in a group of single friends." My dad, joining the conversation, added, "If I were in your shoes, I would definitely speak up and let her know that there should be some boundaries." Both of my parents emphasized the importance of communicating openly and honestly with my wife about my feelings, while also respecting her need to enjoy time with her friends. They advised me to express my emotions and set clear boundaries so we could find a solution that works for both of us. My dad also pointed out, "Her going out so frequently without you is a significant concern." My mom then shared a personal insight. "In our 40 years of marriage, I've only gone to 3 girls' night out events," highlighting the rarity of such outings in their long and committed relationship. Reflecting on their advice, I realized the importance of addressing this issue delicately. I wanted to ensure that my wife understood my perspective while also feeling supported in her need for social interaction. The goal was to find a balance that would protect our marriage and allow her to enjoy her time with friends. She emphasized that her girlfriends were also married and always ensured they were home by 11 p.m. As I drove back home, reflecting on my parents' advice, I realized they were right. It was crucial to address this issue soon to prevent it from escalating. When I arrived home, I brought up the topic with my wife. However, she became upset, accusing me of trying to control her and not trusting her. I tried to clarify that my intentions were not to control her but to express my concern for her safety. Despite my attempts to explain, she wouldn't listen and went to bed angry. The next day, she left for her girls' night out and didn't return even after I got home from work. I was taken aback because this was the third time it had happened, and I was unaware. She eventually came home after 2 a.m., but I chose not to confront her immediately. Instead, I pretended to be asleep when she entered the bedroom. As I lay there, I realized I needed to understand why she prioritized her outings with friends over spending time with our family. I decided that I needed to have an honest conversation with her to figure out what was driving her to leave her family and go out with her friends. Before going to work the next day, I resolved to have this crucial discussion. I reached out to a friend of mine to ask if he still had the contact information for the private investigator he had previously hired for his company. My friend had enlisted the investigator's help after one of his employees claimed workman's compensation for an injury that supposedly prevented him from working. Suspecting the claim might be false, my friend acted swiftly, and the investigator uncovered that the employee, instead of recovering, was playing golf and participating in flag football. With this evidence, the fraudulent compensation claim was withdrawn. Once I obtained the investigator's contact details from my friend, I wanted to ensure I was making the right decision. I confided in my friend about my concerns regarding my wife's recent behavior. She had been frequently attending these girls' night out events, and I was worried she might be involved in activities she shouldn't be. My friend, curious about my suspicions, asked why I doubted her loyalty. I explained that on 3 separate occasions, she had returned home after midnight smelling of alcohol, and when I tried to discuss it with her, she became angry and defensive, which only deepened my concerns. My friend responded, "It seems you have valid reasons to be worried." After our conversation, I decided to take action and contacted the private investigator. We arranged a meeting for after work. During our discussion, the investigator inquired about my specific needs. I explained that I wanted him to discreetly observe my wife when she went out with her friends to see what she was up to. When we met, the investigator informed me that his fee was $100 per hour. The cost didn't concern me, my primary focus was uncovering the truth about my wife's activities. I provided the investigator with a photo of my wife, along with details about her car, job, and work hours. He assured me he would begin his surveillance the following day. For 3 agonizing days, I waited anxiously for his call, my mind swirling with curiosity and dread about what he might uncover about my wife's actions. Finally, he contacted me, and we arranged a meeting after my work. At our meeting, the investigator showed me several videos he had recorded. The footage revealed my wife leaving work in different clothes than she had worn in the morning, indicating she had changed at work. He followed her to a bar where she joined a group of her friends. They spent about 2 hours there before heading to a nearby house, which was roughly 15 minutes away. When they arrived at the house, a man opened the door, and my wife, along with her friends, all dressed in black, entered with him. The investigator explained that wearing black helps him remain inconspicuous during nighttime surveillance. From a discreet distance, he peered through a window and saw something that shattered my heart. The women, including my wife, were dancing closely with several men. My wife was in a corner with one of these men, who was behaving inappropriately with her. They were sharing a passionate kiss. Seeing this devastating evidence, the investigator turned to me and said, "I think you now have enough evidence to take the necessary steps." He handed me a flash drive containing the videos and mentioned that he would retain a copy just in case. Overwhelmed with emotions, I returned home, tears streaming down my face. It was excruciating to accept that my wife, to whom I had been married for 9 years, had been unfaithful and continued to betray me. I was torn between confronting her with the videos or keeping this painful truth to myself. For the moment, I decided not to show her the evidence. The next morning, I woke up early and left for work without saying a word to my wife. While on my way to work, she texted me, asking why I hadn't spoken to her before leaving. Despite her message, I didn't respond immediately. Upon arriving at work, I called several divorce lawyers to seek advice on how to navigate this situation and protect my interests. Simultaneously, I began searching for a place to stay because I knew I couldn't continue living under the same roof as my wife. The thought of leaving our home was incredibly painful, especially because of my deep love for our boys. However, given my wife's actions, I felt it was a necessary step. I was devastated, feeling as though my entire world had been turned upside down. I no longer knew how to mend our broken marriage. Divorce seemed like the only viable option. Trying to repair the damage seemed futile. It became evident that she desired the freedom associated with being single, so I decided to grant her that. However, I had to handle the situation wisely, ensuring our boys wouldn't be left unattended while their mother enjoyed her nights out with friends. Living in Massachusetts, I knew that divorce here followed a no-fault process, which would simplify the legal aspects. Yet, that evening, when I arrived home, my wife and the boys were already there. As I walked in, my wife greeted me with a casual "hi" and asked how my day had been. The boys, full of energy, joyfully exclaimed, "Hey, Dad." It was an incredibly emotional moment for me, and I struggled to maintain my composure and hold back tears. As the evening progressed, everyone began preparing for bed. After tucking the boys in, my wife came downstairs and suggested we watch a movie together. I declined, explaining that I wasn't in the mood. She seemed to understand and said, "All right, I'm heading to bed." Later, after she had fallen asleep, I used the quiet time to pack my belongings and prepare to leave. I waited until she was deeply asleep before quietly slipping out of the house. With nowhere else to go, I headed to my parents' house, even though it was very late. My dad was genuinely concerned about my well-being and asked if I was all right. Wanting to be honest, I sat down with him at the dining table, feeling incredibly heavy-hearted. I showed him the videos the private investigator had collected, revealing the painful evidence. He was in utter disbelief, his reaction mirroring the shock and hurt I had been enduring. Soon, my mom joined us downstairs, and I decided to show her the evidence as well. The revelation left both of my parents speechless, unable to comprehend the sense of betrayal. Summoning my courage, I informed them that I had decided to leave and initiate the divorce process. While they were saddened by my decision, they didn't try to dissuade me. They understood that my choice was clear given my wife's infidelity, and I had reached a point of no return. That night, I stayed at my parents' house, seeking comfort in their support during this tumultuous time. The next morning, I woke up and texted my boss, explaining that I'd be coming in late due to personal reasons. My boss was understanding and accommodating, allowing me the time I needed to handle my personal matters. As I managed my work tasks, I noticed numerous texts from my wife, expressing concern about my whereabouts and why I had left the previous night. Despite her messages, I didn't respond. I was still grappling with my emotions and needed space to process everything. Taking decisive action, I contacted a divorce lawyer and began the legal process, citing her infidelity. At the same time, I made the difficult decision to move out of the house when she wouldn't be there. I returned later to leave her a note explaining that I had started the divorce proceedings and providing the necessary information. I also mentioned she could contact me at my parents' house if needed. When my workday ended, I headed back to my parents' house, only to find my wife's car in the driveway. Walking in, I found her at the kitchen table, tears streaming down her face. She asked why I had filed for divorce, and I mustered the courage to show her the videos on my phone. As the evidence played, I calmly explained that I didn't deserve to be treated this way and that her actions had destroyed the trust between us. After a long and heartfelt conversation, we both agreed that divorce was the best option. I told her I didn't want to keep the house, as it was a rental property, and suggested she could stay since she could handle the rent on her own. The divorce process went smoothly, and the judge granted me 30 days to collect my belongings from the house. I chose not to ask for alimony since I earned more, and child support wasn't necessary as the boys were already receiving it from their biological father. We were both 33 years old, and the boys were 7 and 8. It was heartbreaking because I had grown to love them deeply, treating them as my own despite not being their biological father. When my job offered me an opportunity in another state, I decided to take it, eager to start a new chapter in my life. I changed my phone number, sharing it only with my parents and a few close friends. Embarking on this new journey, I have built an entirely new life for myself. Almost a year has passed, and I am doing remarkably well. I've embraced dating again and find myself in a much better emotional place. Moving and starting fresh has been a positive and transformative experience. Friends have told me that my ex-wife has inquired about me and even tried to reconnect on social media. However, I have no interest in revisiting the past. I am content with my decision to move forward, and I encourage anyone in a similar situation to do the same. Though I still face difficult moments, I am learning to manage them one day at a time. Taking each day as it comes helps me deal with the challenges that arise from time to time. Second story. About a month ago, I made a heart-wrenching discovery. Both of my children were the result of affairs my soon-to-be ex-wife had engaged in. For some time, I had a nagging suspicion that neither of them were biologically mine. 6 years ago, when my son was born, I was overjoyed. I had married my best friend, we had a child together, and life seemed perfect. However, as my son grew older, doubts began to creep in. He didn't resemble me in any way. Despite my deep happiness, those doubts lingered. As the years went by, his differences became more apparent. I am not one to be overly suspicious or narrow-minded, so I tried to push these thoughts aside. But my wife's behavior only fueled my concerns. Her explanations for her whereabouts didn't add up, there were large, unexplained gaps in her schedule, and she consistently avoided introducing me to anyone from her workplace. A close friend even accused her of flirting with others. The situation deteriorated as her lies started to unravel shortly after our son was born. Despite this, I still loved her deeply, perhaps foolishly. Whenever her deceit was exposed, she would reassure me of her love. She managed to convince me that, despite her manipulative behavior, she wasn't the person I feared she was. Last year, when she became pregnant again, a flicker of hope emerged that this child might be mine. However, when her daughter was born, it was clear that she was of mixed race. I refused to sign the birth certificate and insisted on a paternity test, which confirmed my worst fears: neither child was mine. On that devastating day, I initiated divorce proceedings and walked away from the family I had built. I knew it would be heartbreaking for her son to see me leave, but I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies and betrayal. Despite my deep-seated fears, I poured my heart and soul into being a good father to him. I cherished him immensely and gave my all to ensure he had the dad he deserved. But now, when I see him, a wave of revulsion washes over me. I feel repulsed by my unfaithful wife, disgusted with myself for ignoring my gut instincts, and sickened by the thought that the past 6 years of my life have been a sham. Some people have branded me a monster for leaving him behind. Since I moved out, my ex has tried multiple times to manipulate me into returning. She has him call me in the middle of the night, sobbing and begging for his daddy to come back. On the day I left, she paraded him into the room as I was packing, trying to make me feel guilty about the pain I was causing. Whenever his name comes up in conversation, whether online or offline, I face a barrage of criticism and humiliation. Even though I'm not his biological father, I am still considered his dad. Yet, what I've painfully realized is that most people don't care about my emotions. My parents are the only ones who stand by me through all of this, while my own siblings criticize me for abandoning a child, branding me as a terrible person. My feelings of hurt and betrayal seem to hold no value because a child is involved. I understand it's not his fault. I know the man he believed was his father his entire life just walked away. But why am I expected to toughen up? Why must I pretend everything is okay and hide my resentment for this entire situation? Why should I ignore my own life and feelings? In the 6 years since he was born, I committed myself wholeheartedly to him, investing in every moment, believing in our bond. However, discovering the truth shattered that illusion, leaving me with a profound sense of betrayal. My wife's infidelity poisoned the love and trust one had in our family. Her manipulative tactics, using our son to tug at my heartstrings, only deepened my anguish. I've been subjected to judgment and scorn, with many unable or unwilling to see my side. They don't understand the torment of realizing the child you love as your own isn't biologically yours and the subsequent unraveling of trust and faith in the person you once considered your partner. This isn't just about leaving a child, it's about confronting a web of lies and deception that has defined my life for years. Each night, as my ex uses our son's voice to try and lure me back, I'm torn between the love I once felt and the stark reality of her betrayal. My siblings' harsh words and society's judgments don't take into account the emotional devastation I've endured. The betrayal I feel is deep and personal, and it seems invisible to everyone but me. In the midst of this turmoil, my parents are my sole source of support. They understand my pain and don't rush to judge. Unlike others, they don't dismiss my feelings or expect me to simply move on as if nothing has happened. They recognize the complexity of my emotions and the profound impact of this betrayal on my life. Yes, there's a child involved, and I acknowledge the emotional turmoil he must be experiencing. But my own pain, my own need for healing, cannot be overlooked. I've been forced into a situation where I must navigate my own grief while being labeled a villain for trying to reclaim my life. Why must I sacrifice my well-being and continue living in a lie? Why should I be expected to endure this torment silently? This journey has taught me that self-preservation isn't selfish. It's a necessary step to rebuild my life from the ruins of deceit. While others may judge, only I know the depth of my suffering and the need to find a path forward that allows me to heal and eventually find peace. I never truly held the role of father to the boy, despite my deep love for him, a love that still lingers. However, if I continued to play that role, I would inevitably grow to resent him and myself. I would loathe myself for not reclaiming control over my own life. He isn't biologically my child, and while it's not his fault, he's no longer my responsibility. Interestingly, this post has gained significant traction, highlighting how sharing personal struggles can resonate with others. Addressing some common questions, yes, her son knows the truth about why I left. I sat him down and explained that I'm not his biological father, and that his mother deceived and cheated on me. I made it clear that my feelings toward him haven't changed, that he's not to blame, and that I still think he's an amazing kid. Some suggest that I never truly cared for him or was always seeking an escape. It's challenging to convey emotions in a text post, especially when intense anger toward my unfaithful wife colors the past 6 years. However, everyone is entitled to their opinion. I have legal representation, and I won't be obligated to pay child support or alimony. For those who believe I should remain a father figure in her son's life, it's not realistically feasible. I don't harbor any ill will toward him, but I've been deceived, manipulated, and exploited by a selfish and deceitful woman who has now ensnared her children in her web of lies. He's an innocent victim of her actions, but it doesn't change the harsh reality we're facing. I don't hold any grudge against him, it's just profoundly sad to consider how he must be feeling. However, whenever I see him, all I can see is 6 years of deception endured. 6 years during which I was manipulated and exploited, and 6 long years of accumulating doubts and frustrations caused by a woman who used me. I can't push aside my bitterness to try and maintain a role in his life because the life I shared with him was nothing but a facade orchestrated by his mother. This is the harsh reality I'm grappling with, and I can't, in good conscience, subject myself or him to it any longer. I won't divulge my location, but currently, I'm navigating a legal process known as disestablishment of paternity. While this might not silence the 90% who believe a Google search equates to legal expertise, I've made an effort nonetheless. This marks my final edit before I move forward from this diversion I initiated. Firstly, I want to extend my gratitude to everyone for their kind words, whether in the comments, DMs, or chats. Your support has been a beacon of light during this dark period. I've noticed significant criticism regarding the term I used to describe my soon-to-be ex-wife. Allow me to clarify. I'm currently engulfed in one of the darkest phases of my life, consumed by intense anger towards the woman who has shattered my world. Admittedly, my choice of words may have been inappropriate and offensive. However, I won't apologize for it. What I'm sharing today is the unfiltered stream of thoughts from an imperfect person. I don't intend to propagate hatred towards women or promote misogyny. My aim isn't to depict all women as terrible, that's not the message of this post. Second story. I'm Bob, currently 30 years old, with red hair and in decent shape. I work in a factory on the production line during the second shift. My educational background is modest. I graduated from high school but didn't pursue college. Instead, I spent 8 years in the Army as a heavy equipment operator, with 2 tours overseas in Iran and Afghanistan. Although I didn't engage in combat, I faced significant gunfire during my service. After leaving the military, I married my high school sweetheart 3 years ago. Initially, everything seemed blissful, but it has since spiraled into a nightmare. I recently discovered that my wife has been unfaithful throughout our relationship. Currently, I'm attending school to become a truck driver while also managing PTSD from my military service. I regularly meet with a psychologist 3 times a week to cope with it. One evening, feeling unwell, I returned home early from work and overheard Rhonda, my wife, laughing and conversing with another man. They were mocking me, hurling hurtful comments. Though my immediate instinct was to confront them aggressively, I recalled a valuable lesson from my military training: never act impulsively, especially when enraged. Balancing night shifts at work, daytime school, and frequent therapy sessions, I confided in my psychologist about the situation. I admitted to entertaining thoughts of retaliation but opted for a more strategic approach to make them regret their actions without jeopardizing my freedom. While my psychologist suggested daily sessions, I explained the constraints of my schedule and how it had hindered my ability to address the situation. I decided to take a week off to gather information about the other man and devise a plan. I purchased 3 discrete surveillance cameras online capable of recording both video and audio, triggered by sound. Utilizing these devices, I kept a vigilant watch over my apartment, determined to uncover the identity of the man frequenting our home. It dawned on me how naive I had been, allowing this stranger into our intimate space night after night. His name was John Rich, a fact I gleaned over the next couple of days. Taking decisive action, I procured a new phone and number and secured accommodation in a neighboring town. I promptly visited my landlord to terminate my lease by month's end. At the bank, I overhauled my financial affairs, updating my accounts and insurance policies, ensuring they reflected my new address. I liaised with utility providers to transfer services and cease those at my current residence. Additionally, I liaised with HR and the plant manager at work, explaining my circumstances and securing a transfer to a different plant for a third-shift position. The plant manager empathetically shared his own ordeal, suggesting legal counsel and recommending a formidable advocate, Mrs. Jenny Kurtz. Grateful for his support, I scheduled a consultation with Mrs. Kurtz for the following day. Later, at my friend Pete's house, I enlisted his help for the impending move, enjoying a moment of camaraderie over a beer as we discussed logistics. Returning home, I found Rhonda asleep, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within me. Reviewing the surveillance footage, I was greeted by scenes of betrayal, witnessing Rhonda and John engaging in intimate acts in our bed, accompanied by disparaging remarks directed at me. The sight of John's audacity, using my personal hygiene products and even defiling my toothbrush, filled me with a seething rage. The following day, I informed Rhonda of errands requiring my attention, unable to bear her presence without succumbing to violent impulses. I knew I had to be convincing. I discovered that John, the man intruding on my life, worked as a used car salesman. To reclaim a sense of control, I bought all new personal care items, shower gel, shampoo, mouthwash, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. Additionally, I purchased a small gym bag to store these new items. For a touch of petty revenge, I urinated on my old toiletries. It felt strangely satisfying. In my quest for retribution, I kept a close eye on John and discovered he had several girlfriends. I followed him, documenting his interactions with various women, capturing photos of them kissing and hugging using my smartphone. The convenience of modern technology worked in my favor. With 2 more weeks to organize everything, I updated my plans. I visited the lawyer's office and explained my situation to her, handing over a flash drive containing the incriminating videos of Rhonda and John. Jenny, my lawyer, watched some of the footage and was visibly disgusted by John's actions, especially with my toothbrush and the laughter they shared about it. I informed her that John was also seeing other married women and that I had video evidence of his infidelities. I contacted the husbands of these women and arranged a meeting at a restaurant in 5 days, without revealing the purpose. I hinted to Jenny that she might gain more clients soon. After leaving her office, I resumed tracking John. I found out that he was renting a motel room for his affairs. To gather more evidence, I bought 2 additional spy cameras, disguised myself as a repairman, and persuaded the chambermaid, Kelly, to let me into the room by offering her $500. I explained my intentions to her, and she sympathized, revealing she had gone through a divorce due to her husband's infidelity. She wished someone had helped her as I was helping these other husbands. I informed Kelly that I would need to return in a few days to remove the cameras, and she agreed without hesitation. I carefully positioned one camera inside the motel room, aimed directly at the bed, and placed another outside the window to ensure the footage would be admissible in court. During my surveillance, I discovered that one of John's lovers was his boss's wife. Realizing the potential impact of this revelation, I made copies of all the videos on multiple flash drives. Concerned for my health, I visited a doctor for STD testing, and thankfully, the results came back negative. 5 days later, on a Monday, I arranged a meeting at a restaurant with all the husbands of the women involved with John. They arrived unaware of the meeting's purpose. My lawyer, Jenny, introduced herself and me, and I provided each husband with a flash drive containing videos of their wives' intimate activities with John, along with detailed information about John himself. I informed them that I would be having my wife and John served with divorce papers on the upcoming Friday, the 30th, and noted that Saturday marked the end of the month. I shared the steps I had taken to prepare for my divorce, hoping they might consider similar actions. Jenny expressed her gratitude for the new clients and inquired about my well-being. All 5 husbands decided to hire Jenny as their lawyer. Curious about my actions regarding John and my toiletries, Jenny asked for details. I confirmed her interest and confessed that I had been urinating in the shower gel and shampoo. When I hinted at more with the toothpaste, she preferred not to know and just chuckled. I provided her with new flash drives to aid in the other cases. I contacted Kelly, the chambermaid, to arrange the retrieval of the cameras, and also invited her to dinner on Saturday, to which she agreed. Reaching out to Pete, I confirmed our plans for Friday afternoon, and he assured me everything was on track. I've been avoiding Rhonda lately, unable to bear the thought of intimacy after discovering her betrayal. It seems she hasn't even noticed my emotional and physical withdrawal. The sense of deceit lingers heavily, but I am resolute in my plan to reclaim my life and dignity. To make amends, I surprised Rhonda with an all-day spa appointment scheduled for Friday, and she was genuinely delighted by the gesture. She informed John of her plans, but his reaction wasn't mentioned. In a fortunate turn of events, I managed to secure an additional day off on that same Friday. That morning, Rhonda left for her appointment, brimming with excitement. Seizing the opportunity, I called Pete, who promptly arrived with a few friends and a truck. We swiftly began the task of moving my belongings, completing the entire process in just 2 hours. When it came time to pack up items from the bathroom, I warned them to avoid a specific area due to the unpleasant surprises I had left. Around this time, legal papers were served to Rhonda at the spa, and John was served at his now former workplace. Simultaneously, all the wives involved were also handed legal notices. John was later found in a battered state at his motel, a fitting consequence for his actions. When Rhonda returned home to find my belongings gone, she was livid. Her fury intensified upon learning of John's infidelity. With nowhere else to turn, she moved back in with her parents. By the time her lawyer thought they had tracked me down at work, I had already started my new job as a long-haul truck driver. My lawyer, Jenny, was empowered to handle all aspects of the divorce proceedings on my behalf. Initially, Rhonda resisted the divorce, but she eventually relented. 6 months later, I finally attained my freedom. As for John, he now walks with a permanent limp and has lost his virility. It seemed as though he faced new ailments almost every other month, but sympathy for him was far from my thoughts. In the end, all the cheating wives ended up divorced, a chain reaction set in motion by my actions. Reflecting on these events, the satisfaction of reclaiming my life and exacting a measure of justice is profound. The ordeal tested my resilience, but ultimately, I emerged stronger and ready to embrace a future free from deceit and betrayal. Update. 5 years after our divorce, I was at a restaurant when someone tapped me on the shoulder. Turning around, I was startled to see Rhonda, who now looked noticeably older. She asked if she could join me for a moment, and I gestured to the empty chair, inviting her to sit. With tears in her eyes, Rhonda apologized sincerely for all the pain she had caused me. Her words took me by surprise. I reassured her that I had forgiven her long ago. She confessed that she had married me to escape her parents, a revelation that was both sad and enlightening. I offered to share a meal with her, and she agreed. I called the waitress over, and Rhonda placed her order. We ended up talking for the next 2 hours. Rhonda shared that she had returned to school and become a nurse. In turn, I told her about my life as a long-haul truck driver, crisscrossing the country. Interestingly, whenever I passed through town, Rhonda and I would meet up. These meetings often led to us spending nights together, evolving into a friends with benefits relationship.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click on the little bell icon for notifications of new stories.